The technique of macro, also sometimes referred to as micro photography, is to take these really awesome blown up images of otherwise very small subjects. It may be an insect, maybe a flower. And macro photography is very tricky, mainly because when you move your camera very, very, very close to a subject, it starts to push one of the depth of field rules to its limits. And that rule is, the closer you are to your subject, the thinner the depth of field. So as you move your lens or your camera closer and closer to the subject, you're going to have only a very small part of it in focus. Another thing you need to know is that most lenses are not able to do good macro photography because there's a limit on how close they can get. So to get a really good macro shot, you need to either purchase a macro lens or purchase something called extension tubes. Extension tubes are essentially a set of hollow tubes that allow you to move your lens further away from your camera body. And what this does is it allows you to get closer to the subject and therefore take macro type images. I think the most cost efficient way to get into macro photography is to invest in a set of macro tubes. You can get them for single tubes for maybe $60, and you can get a set of 3 typically for about $150. But coming back to this problem of moving very, very close to your subject, you can try to take a picture like that. You're going to have a very shallow depth of field. A technique to overcome this problem would be to make your aperture smaller. This particular lens, it's a macro lens, it'll go down to f/45, which is an extremely small aperture. And what this does is it increases the depth of field. Now, the problem with this is, if you have a very small aperture, you have a lot less light coming through the lens, which means you have to use much longer and much slower shutter speeds, so maybe a second, maybe 3 seconds. So if you want to get into macro photography and you don't know where to start, what I would recommend is to make sure you have a tripod. Get your camera on the tripod. Use the smallest aperture possible. If you have the ability to get a macro lens, or you have one, or maybe invest in some extension tubes, it's not very expensive. You should probably set your camera to timer, because every time you push your shutter button down, it's going to shake the camera just a little bit. Practice taking images at very, very small apertures. It's going to be, in daylight, even like this, it'll be 3, 4, 5 seconds. So you'll have a thicker depth of field and you'll get some good results.